the idea around leadership, and frankly, I wish it was an MBL program, not an MBA program. All right? Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be effective in business, it's more about leadership than it is about administration. It's more about leadership than it is about management. Leaders, there are certain qualities that leaders must have. They must be technically competent. And what do I mean technically? I don't mean engineering technically, necessarily. But they must know their business to be effective. They must know their trade to be effective in leading others. They must have energy. Whether that's driven by some passion or their inherent or innate capability, they have to be able to bring capacity, work capacity into their work. They must have resilience. Just like the nation has to have resilience when we go through periods, the natural cyclical nature of the economy, the natural cyclical nature of business. You have to have resilience to deal with difficulty. You have to have a passion for learning, because leadership is about learning all the time, even when you're 61. That's what's so cool about speaking with you all, and what's so interesting about speaking with you all. Right? You are the kind of people I can relate to. People who have decided to make learning part of your lifelong business. And frankly, when I mentor and coach folks, I said, whenever life starts to get dull, go back to school. Whenever your career starts to get dull, go back to school. As long as the engine, the energy you bring to work or to your career or to life is there, the thing that provides traction in life and in careers is your experience and education. The point at which you feel you're not getting experience, don't automatically look to find a new job. Find a new way to gain experience. And so I suggest to a lot of people, when you start to feel that in your job, go back to school. Oh, by the way, you might find an interesting job in connection in school. In addition to that penchant for lifelong learning, you have to have a moral compass. You have to fundamentally understand what's right and wrong, and you have to apply that moral compass in every aspect of your life. Okay? My sense of a lot of the issues that we've been facing in our economy come from, and I'll use the economy since we're in a business environment, come from people who lost their moral compass. Either never had one in terms of what was right or what was wrong, were unwilling to choose the difference. The other aspect of leadership is service. Right? I'm a firm believer that in the end, the most effective leaders are those who are least self-serving. And in fact, if you're even a bit self-serving, in the end, you're not going to be successful as a leader. Now, what do I mean by service? I don't mean military service, although that is service. I mean taking an interest in the success of others. And when you take more interest in the success of others, you will be amazed at how successful you will become. That too, I think, gets lost from time to time in our society and in our culture. like to share just a couple of thoughts about how I ended up here. I left my office at 3:30, drove around the Beltway anticipating a 2.5-hour drive, 18 miles, 2.5, and got here in 45 minutes. It was a miracle. When I graduated from the Naval Academy, and I did graduate in aerospace engineering. There were only 20 of us who graduated in aerospace engineering. I was number 20. And I was lucky enough at the time, because we had a quota on how many people could get in the Marine Corps, that I stood high enough in my class, or at least far enough from the bottom, that I could get in the Marines. 4 years of training in what most people would think of as a fairly rigid leadership environment. Didn't do a thing for me compared to being a Marine platoon commander for 6 months. Right? And I tell people all the time, I'm basically a Marine platoon commander masquerading as a CEO. Because the fundamentals that I learned as a Marine platoon commander in terms of serving others was fundamental in my success. I believe in 4 simple principles when it comes to business leadership. Oh, by the way, they apply to other aspects of my life. First and foremost, I believe in the principle of partnership. Partnership. Partnership is an interesting relationship. It's the only relationship that, for the relationship to be successful, all the parties in the relationship must individually be successful. That drives behavior amongst partners where they're willing to subordinate what they may perceive as their self-interest to that of the relationship, of the partnership. Now, we all have partners. We all have partnerships. Now, some of this you may not relate to right away. All those folks at SAIC who raised their hands, they are partners. They are colleagues. They are not employees. The only person who thinks of them as employees is my Executive Vice President for Human Resources, right? Because he's got to count them all, right? And he also has to pay them all, right? And he has to treat them with benefits and all that kind of stuff. So to him, it's a little different. Not really. But for most of us, and for you at some point in your life, you'll have partners with your parents, your brothers and sisters, your teachers, all right, your classmates. In my life, since I was 22, the principal partnership in my life has been my wife, who I met when I was 12 at North Bethesda Junior High School. And then I waited. You couldn't be married at the Naval Academy. So we waited until 3 days after graduation. And I know that if it's 7 o'clock in the evening and I haven't bothered to call her and tell her I'm not going to be home at 6:30, I failed in my obligation in that partnership. And oh, by the way, if I get up out of bed after she does and don't make the bed, I have failed in that partnership, because we set expectations. We all kind of know the rules. We know what success means to each other. And we respect that. It is the same in business. It is the same in business. The most beneficial relationships in business are partnerships, whether it's individual from a legal construct or it's business partners who serve to create value in the marketplace as subcontractors, suppliers, you name it. If that relationship is treated like a partnership, it is almost uniformly more successful than other relationships. That's why I believe in them.